Hi, this is Andrew. The alarm doesn't just go off in the morning anymore. For many Christian parents, it's a constant, low-level hum of anxiety that follows them through the day. It's in the way you look at your child's backpack, wondering what new ideology is tucked inside next to the algebra homework. It's in the knot that forms in your stomach when you see an email from the school principal, bracing yourself for the latest initiative that feels less like education and more like indoctrination. It's in the silent prayers you utter, asking God to protect your child's heart and mind in a place that was once dedicated to knowledge, but now feels like a front line in a war for their soul. You're not paranoid. You're not overreacting. You are a parent who is paying attention, and what you are seeing is real. The public school system, an institution that once stood as a pillar of community and a launch pad for American achievement, has been systematically co-opted. It has become, in many districts, a delivery mechanism for a radical, left-wing worldview that is fundamentally hostile to the Christian faith, to the traditional family, and to the very foundations of truth and morality. For years, we have been told to trust the experts, to defer to the professionals, to believe that the people running our schools have our children's best interests at heart. We've been encouraged to be involved, yes, but from the sidelines. Bake sales, parent-teacher conferences, chaperoning field trips. We've been conditioned to believe that the real power lies with the educrats, the administrators, the unions, and the tenured teachers who know what's best. This is the lie they want you to believe. The truth is that the single most powerful, influential, and decisive body in your child's education is not the State Department of Education, not the teachers' union, and not the superintendent. It is the local school board. The school board is the ground zero of the culture war. It is the 5, 7, or 9 individuals who hold the reins of power. They set the policy. They approve the curriculum. They hire superintendents. They control the millions of dollars in your tax money. They decide what your children are taught, who teaches them, and what values are embedded in their day-to-day school experience. And right now, in districts all across this nation, those seats are being held by people who do not share your values. They are being held by activists who see your child not as a precious individual to be educated, but as a raw piece of clay to be molded into a social justice warrior. They are implementing a curriculum that is designed to tear down your child's faith, dismantle their understanding of biology and history, and convince them that their country, their family, and their God are sources of oppression. This is not an accident. This is a silent coup, a decade-long, patient, and strategic takeover of our nation's most critical institution. They understood a simple truth that we, in our comfort and complacency, forgot he who controls the children controls the future. But here is the good news. It is not too late. The coup is silent, but it is not complete. The system, for all its corruption, still has one feature that the radicals cannot easily abolish: the election. The school board is an elected body. The power they wield is lent to them by you, the voter, and it is a power that can be withdrawn. This video is a call to arms. It is a rallying cry for every Christian parent, grandparent, and concerned citizen who has looked at the state of our schools and felt that holy frustration rise up within. It is a battle plan for taking back the ground that has been lost. We are going to dismantle the lies, expose the agenda, and show you, step by step, why you're uniquely qualified for this mission and exactly how you can run for your local school board with a purpose, with a plan, and with the power of the Holy Spirit. This is not just about politics. This is about spiritual warfare. This is about stewardship. This is about answering the call to be a shield for your children and a light in the darkness. The time for sideline commentary is over. The time for prayerful lamentation must give way to prayerful action. The future of your children, your grandchildren, and your community is hanging in balance. It's time to suit up and get in the fight. The schools have become the indoctrination factory, and in this video, we are exposing the woke agenda in our schools. Before we can talk about the solution, we must be crystal clear about the problem. We must move beyond vague feelings of unease and name the enemy. The ideology being pushed in our schools has many names: critical race theory, gender theory, DEI, diversity, equity and inclusion, and social-emotional learning, but they are all branches of the same poisonous tree. This is a neo-Marxist, anti-Christian worldview that seeks to deconstruct every pillar of Western civilization and rebuild it in its own image. Let's be specific about what is happening in classrooms across America, often under the radar and always couched in positive-sounding language. 1. The war on history and identity, critical race theory. You've heard the denials. We don't teach CRT in our district. This is a semantic game. While they may not be using the college-level textbook, the core tenets of critical race theory, CRT, are being infused into every subject. CRT is not, as its proponents claim, simply teaching an honest history of slavery and racism. It is a radical framework that posits that racism is not the act of individual bigots, but the permanent, defining characteristic of American society itself. It teaches that the foundations of our nation, the Constitution, the free market, the justice system, are inherently racist, designed to uphold white supremacy. In practice, this means your child is being taught to see the world not through the lens of individual character and responsibility, but through the lens of identity groups. They are taught that they are either an oppressor or an oppressed based on the color of their skin. White children are made to feel a collective, inherited guilt for the sins of the past, while minority children are taught to see themselves as perpetual victims, powerless to succeed in a system rigged against them. This is a direct assault on the Christian doctrine of Imago Dei, that every single person, regardless of race, is made in the image of God and possesses inherent dignity and value. It replaces individual sin and redemption with collective guilt and resentment. It teaches children to judge one another not by the content of their character, but by the color of their skin, the exact opposite of the dream Martin Luther King Jr. articulated. It sows division where God calls for unity and bitterness where Christ calls for forgiveness. 2. The war on reality, gender ideology. Perhaps the most insidious and destructive front of this war is the assault on biological reality, packaged as gender inclusivity and affirmation. What was once confined to obscure university departments is now being taught to children as young as 5. The core tenet of gender ideology is the radical separation of gender from biological sex. It teaches that a person's gender identity, an internal, subjective feeling, is more real than their objective, biological sex. Children are taught that they can be a boy, a girl, both, neither, or a growing list of other genders, and that this identity can change from day to day. This isn't just about being kind to kids who are different. This is a systematic program of social transition. Schools are implementing policies that allow children to change their names and pronouns at school without parental knowledge or consent. They are introducing books in elementary school libraries that normalize and even celebrate gender transitions, like the infamous Jazz, which tells the story of a child who believes he is a girl trapped in a boy's body. In health classes, the biological reality of male and female is replaced with a confusing spectrum of identities. The objective, scientific fact that there are only 2 sexes is presented as a bigoted, outdated view. Children are being socially and psychologically conditioned into a worldview that is not only false but deeply harmful. For Christian parents, this is a direct attack on God's creative order. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. Genesis 1 verse 27. This is not a suggestion. It is a foundational truth of the universe. By teaching children that their God-given body is a mistake that can be corrected, schools are leading them down a path of confusion, self-rejection, and in many cases, irreversible medical harm. They are robbing them of the ability to trust the most basic reality of their own being. 3. The war on the family. Comprehensive sexuality education. Under the guise of health and safety, schools are implementing comprehensive sexuality education, CSE, curricula that are nothing short of pornographic and perverse. These programs, often pushed by organizations like Planned Parenthood and SAICUS, Sexuality Information and Education Council of the United States, go far beyond biology. They are designed to sexualize children, normalize a wide range of sexual behaviors, and position the school, not the family, as the primary source of sexual values. CSE teaches children about anal and oral sex, BDSM, and a host of other practices in graphic detail. It promotes abortion as a positive choice and encourages children to explore their sexuality from a young age, often framing abstinence as a form of repression. So, what are the three fronts of the indoctrination war? The takeover of our schools is not happening by accident. It is a multi-pronged strategy designed to reshape the hearts and minds of the next generation. Understanding these three fronts is the first step toward mounting an effective defense. Front 1. The curriculum war, what they are taught. This is the most visible front. It's about the content of the textbooks, the lessons in the classroom, and the books on the library shelves. The goal here is to replace a knowledge-based curriculum with one that is grounded in social and political activism. A. Rewriting history and civics through the lens of critical race theory, CRT. As mentioned earlier, CRT is not simply teaching about racism. It is a framework that reinterprets all of American history and society through the lens of power and oppression. Here's how it manifests in the classroom. The 1619 Project. This initiative, which has been adapted into curriculum materials for schools across the country, reframes American history around the arrival of the first enslaved Africans. It posits that the true founding of America was not in 1776 with the ideals of liberty, but in 1619 with the institution of slavery. It teaches that America is an irredeemably racist nation, and that concepts like individualism, hard work, and the nuclear family are facets of white supremacy. This directly attacks the Christian narrative of a nation founded on God-given rights and principles of liberty. Actionable civics. Instead of teaching the mechanics of how government works, the separation of powers, the Bill of Rights, the electoral process, new civics frameworks push students toward actionable or protest civics. They are taught to view the system as broken and unjust and are encouraged to become activists for leftist causes. They learn how to organize protests, lobby for policies like the Green New Deal, and decolonize their schools, rather than learning how to be informed, responsible citizens within the existing framework. Identity-based literature. English classes are shifting away from classic literature that explores universal human themes and toward a canon chosen solely on the identity of the author. While diversity in authors is a good thing, the new criterion is not literary excellence, but the author's status as a victim of oppression. The books chosen often reinforce the narrative of an oppressive society, focusing on trauma, grievance, and division rather than redemption, courage, and shared humanity. B. Dismantling biology and reality with gender ideology. This is perhaps the most deceptive and damaging front, as it is often framed as a matter of inclusion and mental health. The reality is a radical departure from science and a direct assault on parental authority and faith. The gender unicorn versus biology. In many health and science classes, objective biological reality is replaced by confusing, politically driven models like the gender unicorn. This tool, created by a transgender activist group, teaches children that gender identity, how you feel inside, gender expression, how you present yourself, and sex assigned at birth are all separate and fluid concepts. It explicitly teaches that a boy can be a girl and a girl can be a boy, simply by feeling it to be so. Social transition without parental consent. This is where policy and curriculum collide. School districts across the country, guided by activist organizations and reinterpretations of federal Title IX rules, have implemented gender support plans. These plans allow a student to change their name, pronouns, and access private facilities, like bathrooms, at school, all without the knowledge or consent of their parents. The school actively hides this information from families, creating a secret life for the child and positioning the school as a more trustworthy authority than the parent. This is a catastrophic breach of trust and a violation of your God-given role as the primary educator and protector of your child. Pornographic library books. Under the guise of diversity and inclusivity, school libraries have become repositories for sexually explicit books. Books like Genderqueer, a memoir, and Lawn Boy contain graphic descriptions of sexual acts and are available to children as young as elementary age. When parents object, they're often labeled as bigots and book banners. The goal is not to provide age-appropriate literature, but to normalize pornography and hypersexualize children at a young age, desensitizing them and breaking down their natural modesty. C. Sexualizing children with comprehensive sexuality education, CSE. This is not the sex education you may remember. CSE is a radical, rights-based approach that treats children as autonomous sexual beings for birth. From abstinence to sexual rights. The goal of CSE is not to prevent teen pregnancy or STIs by promoting abstinence. Its primary goal is to ensure children are pleasure-positive and free of any shame or guilt regarding their sexuality. It teaches about a wide array of sexual behaviors as normal and healthy options for exploration. Promoting abortion, CSE curricula, often developed or influenced by Planned Parenthood, present abortion as a simple, safe, and positive healthcare option. They teach children how to access abortion services without their parents' knowledge, framing it as a matter of bodily autonomy and reproductive justice. Undermining the family. A core tenet of CSE is that the state, not the family, is the primary guarantor of a child's sexual health. It teaches that children have a right to this information and to these services, regardless of their parents' values or religious beliefs. It systematically erodes the idea that sexuality is a sacred gift from God to be expressed within the covenant of marriage, replacing it with a purely recreational, transactional view. Front 2. The policy war, how the school operates. If curriculum is the what, policy is the how. This is the bureaucratic, often invisible set of rules that governs every aspect of the school environment. This is where the indoctrination is institutionalized and made permanent. DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Infusion. DEI is not just a corporate buzzword. It's a radical ideological framework being embedded into every facet of school operations. Equity is not about equality of opportunity. It's about equality of outcome. This means that any disparity in achievement or discipline between student groups is automatically deemed evidence of systemic racism or bias. The solution is not to lift up those who are struggling, but to tear down the systems of merit excellence and individual achievement, which are labeled as tools of oppression. This leads to the elimination of advanced placement classes, gifted programs, and even objective grading scales, all in the name of equity. Restorative justice. This policy replaces traditional discipline for things like fighting, insubordination, and vandalism with restorative circles and dialogue. The focus shifts from holding a student accountable for their actions to understanding the root causes of their behavior, which are invariably blamed on systemic oppression. The result is chaos in the classroom, as teachers lose the authority to maintain order and students who want to learn are held hostage by the disruptive behavior of a few. Hiring and training mandates. School boards approve contracts and policies that require all staff, from teachers to bus drivers to janitors, to undergo training in anti-racism, implicit bias, and LGBTQ+ inclusivity. These trainings are often based on CRT principles and are designed to force compliance with a new ideology. Hiring practices are changed to prioritize cultural competency over academic excellence or teaching ability, ensuring that the next generation of educators is fully aligned with the activist agenda. Front 3. The culture war, the school environment. This is the most pervasive and perhaps the most powerful front. It's about shaping the social-emotional climate of the school to reinforce the ideological message. Social-emotional learning. SEL on the surface. SEL sounds harmless, teaching kids to manage their emotions and have empathy. But in practice, It has been co-opted by activist organizations to become a vehicle for screening students for resistance to the new ideology. SEL surveys and curricula ask children highly personal and inappropriate questions about their gender identity, their family's political beliefs, their level of white privilege, and their anxieties about climate change. The data collected is used to identify students who may need intervention or re-education. Identity-based clubs and events. Schools now officially sponsor and fund clubs like gay-straight alliances or gender-sexuality alliances that often serve as on-campus recruitment centers for gender ideology. They host events like Day of Silence, which pressures students and even teachers to remain silent for a day to protest the silencing of LGBTQ+ people, and Spirit Day, which encourages students to wear purple to support LGBTQ+ youth. These events create a social environment where conformity to the ideology is rewarded and dissent is socially ostracized. The language of the regime, the very language used in school communications, is changed. Teachers are forced to use students' preferred pronouns, often under threat of disciplinary action. School-wide emails are filled with jargon like cisgender, heteronorm. In order to combat this war against our children, we need more conservative Christians to run for school board. To learn more about running for a school board position, purchase our ebook to start your journey to run for a school board position or to encourage someone else to run. Thank you for watching and have a great day. Are you looking for a limitless supply of insightful reads to expand your mind and transform your life? Look no further than Nehemiah Reset's ebook library, where knowledge meets inspiration at nehemiahreset.org/ebook. Go there today to discover a wealth of valuable resources to help you on your personal and professional journey to build a biblical worldview. Learn more about the Bible and how culture is impacting your worldview. Again, that the ebook library is located at nehemiahreset.org/ebook. Hope to see you soon. My name is Mark. I'm one of the spokespersons for Nehemiah Reset. The prior video was sponsored by Nehemiah Reset, a 501c3. Our mission is to assist Christians in developing a biblical worldview as it pertains to relevant cultural and biblical issues. We seek to inform Christ's followers, equip them, and mobilize them into action to vote for their biblical values and to actively engage in our culture. We are also committed to help Christians and non-believers to develop a better biblical view. Nehemiah Reset produces videos and ebooks to assist members of the church in developing a biblical worldview when it comes to cultural issues. We produce videos on key topics like public school indoctrination, the woke agenda, sex education, equity and inclusion, climate change, immigration, religious freedom, and much, much more. To learn more about Nehemiah Reset or to watch our latest videos, go to our website at nehemiahreset.org or our rumble.com channel. We produce 2 to 3 videos every week. To get a weekly list of our latest videos, sign up for our weekly newsletter by going to nehemiahreset.org/email and subscribe. You can support our website by liking our videos, subscribing to our channels, or helping us reach more people through tax-exempt donations. Thanks for your help in growing God's kingdom and bringing more people to Christ. Thank you for your support and help. Come back again soon. Have a great day.